Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University, with undergraduate and graduate programs part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. The 4th of July might be the busiest day of the summer by the old barbecue grill, unless you prefer that someone else do the grilling. Our friends from Sauce Magazine took that notion to heart and went looking for the best barbecue joints around and brought two owner-operators of two legendary establishments to our studios. David Sandusky runs Beast Craft BBQ Company in Belleville. Otis Walker is co-owner of Smoki O's in North St. Louis. Sauce writer Matt Sorrell did the legwork on this story. He admitted it was a tough assignment, but somebody had to do it.
Well, I learned a lot because I tell you the truth, I've been around barbecue obviously my whole life, but it was the backyard, dad out there grilling on a Sunday, his Bermuda shorts. So it's a little different world than I was used to. And I was really impressed one thing because there's such a diversity of barbecue, and there's so many different styles, and there's so many different people have different specialties, and there's so many different cuts. And when I grew up, it was hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill outside, and that's actually not barbecue in the traditional sense. So there's a lot to learn. It was really fascinating.
Otis, what is the difference between the backyard barbecue person and what you do?
Well, I think there's not a lot of difference there. One thing is cost. What we do in the backyard, oftentimes we can't do traditionally in a business. Like beer barbecue and putting beer in the barbecue sauce. There's a lot of different things that you may do in the backyard that just won't work in a commercial business. But in St. Louis, what I find is the different sauces, and also the different meats, as Matt was saying, that you may prepare. Most of the barbecue today, a lot of it comes in frozen, so it has to be thawed down and what have you. And so there's quite a bit of work to it.
And David, how about you? I mean, how do you see it as being different from not only from the backyard barbecuer, but from what Otis is doing?
As Matt said, I think there's 1,000 different ways to barbecue, but it's not just nationwide. We find a lot of diversity here in St. Louis, which is great for the city. I think that there's, like he said, everybody's a specialist in something, and there's a niche for everybody. There's room for everybody. It's honestly, it's a big, beautiful family. We're all friends. We're all family, and all want each other to do really well. And so there's a lot of community involvement and support within that network. With us at Beast, we really try to bring the backyard to the table as much as we can. In those ways, we may be very similar to what Otis represents with Smoki O's. We do a lot of grilling and basting and things of that nature. That, to me, speaks to my soul better than the competition style might, for instance. But like I said, there's room for all of us.
Are you guys rivals? Do you consider yourself rivals?
I don't.
I don't consider us rivals. No.
We usually compete against ourselves.
Yeah.
It's all about the perfection that you want in your product, or the presentation that you want in your product. Trying to compete against what somebody else is doing, that doesn't make sense to me. The goal is to be successful at what you're doing, and for your business to move along.
I agree with that. I don't think that there's any time really to worry about what the other guys are doing. You just always trying to do you better.
Yeah. I've also just in the little bit of time I was able to kind of do my little bit of barbecue research for this. The barbecue scene here in this area is a lot like the larger culinary scene when chefs helping chefs. We have a really great culinary community in the St. Louis area where even though people might be technically rivals or technically competitors, they'll step in and help each other. They'll always lend a helping hand, and I think that's in the barbecue scene as well. It's like everybody's just kind of there to support each other and bolster what they do.
Otis, I've been hearing that there's been a surge in interest and appreciation for barbecue recently, and yet, in my own mind, from what I've observed, it seems like it's always been there and always pretty consistent.
Yeah, there has been I think barbecue in the last 20 years has been one of the fastest growing cuisines in America. I've seen barbecue grow from just corners to massive houses now that do quite a great job. I've seen a lot of growth in the barbecue industry, a lot of different looks that you might say, where guys you see more smokers now than traditional charcoal and wood kind of cooking, which I think is great, because like I say, I really enjoy when I'm looking at and seeing. I see a lot of young guys like David that's doing a really good job. And, of course, you got the other guys, Sugar Fire Pappies. And we all try to help one another. In fact, if people come to my restaurant and I don't have what they're looking for, of course, I'll send them to one of my, I don't call them competitors, but one of the other houses, And same there, if someone goes to their place, they'll come and say, well, so-and-so sent me over here. And that's kind of what we traditionally do.
David, he raised an issue that I think a lot of people wonder about, and that is using charcoal, using wood, and using gas. Does it really make any difference?
It can. I'll tell you that putting out an outstanding brisket is very, very difficult in a rotisserie. You really need to. It really depends on the cut and what you're trying to do with it. There's some things that are great with gas. There's some things that really you should only do on a stick burner or charcoal. But trying to do them all on, one type of way is probably, it would work against you, I would think. So I mean, there's good and bad.
Right, and also it kind of gets down to who's driving. You can have a guy driving a Corvette, another guy off here driving a Mustang, but if you can't drive, it doesn't make no difference. You have to know how to drive. So if you do have a guy that's using gas and he's proficient at it, then there's a big difference there. And just like David said, there's a gentleman by the name of Paul Kirk. He doesn't use rotisserie to cook brisket. He cooks it just straight off a grill and does a fantastic job. In fact, he's called the Barbecue Baron of Kansas City. Paul is a great brisket man, but like I say, it all depends on what you know and how you know what you do.
David, what is authentic barbecue? Does it have to be pork, or does it have to be beef, or does it make any difference?
If you're looking for a way to define it in those terms, I don't think it makes any difference.
There are some people, though, who think one excludes the other.
Yeah, that's just about their subculture in their area of the country where such things are a little bit bigger in those places. Texas, for instance, there's a lot more ranches for cattle than there is pig farms. In the Midwest, you're going to find more pig farms. So there's a lot of barbecue is very localized in that sense. You'll find a lot more vinegars used on the East Coast and mustards. Well, mustard grows out there,
right?
Things like that. So it's all very subcultural, and that's really one of the things that drew me to barbecue was just this desire to be in touch with the land and with the immediate surroundings.
What is the difference between barbecue in Kansas City and Memphis and St. Louis? We keep hearing that one is better than the other for whatever reason.
Well, I think they're all pretentious for their own reasons, but I would, first of all, dare to say that those of us in St. Louis right now as a group are probably putting out better barbecue than Kansas City or Memphis has done in 20 years. But it's hard to be objective about that. We're sitting here in St. Louis, so but we're kind of putting some places like that on notice. Nashville's doing the same thing. A big barbecue boom there, and they're being very creative and doing some cool new things and challenging the status quo. Kansas City tends to be they tend to rely on sauces quite a bit, right?
Right.
They do tomato based, typically very sweet, pretty thick, stuff like that. And people start to define the barbecue by the sauce in that area, at least in my opinion and from what I've seen.
Otis, if I were to pick up a piece of meat that had been barbecued in St. Louis, how would it be different from some of those other places that are renowned for barbecue?
Well, I think your smaller places, what we like to do in the smaller places is actually take the membrane off that rib, and that way you get a better flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're cooking over coals,
High five to that.
it tends to as your seasonings cook and your meat, and then it penetrates back up to it comes back into your meat. So it's a very different flavor. It's a very different flavor. It really comes down to what you kind of like. And just as Dave was saying, in Carolina, there's a very large vinegar base of barbecue sauce. People love that. I don't particularly care for it. I'm more of a tomato and tangy kind of sauce. You get a little bit of both, sweet and sour, more or less, But and then also now, don't get me wrong about the vinegar, because the vinegar is also one of the oldest bases that you're going to find to actually base your meat with.
It tenderizes, doesn't it?
It tenderizes and it makes it a lot more digestible, over a period of time.
David, I thought Otis was going to say the thing that differentiates St. Louis from the other places is that we do pork steaks. Nobody else does.
Yeah, so there's a few cuts, and St. Louis is known for.
That is true.
Pork steaks being one of them, or a blade steak. Mm-hmm. Snoot is another one that you will have a hard time finding anywhere else in the country,
and it's worth finding too.
And by the way, Otis does it better than anyone.
It's true.
Yeah,
that's pointed out in Matt's story, by the way.
I tell you what, the Snoots over there. I mean, just great texture, great consistency. Sometimes I've had a few at other places that are real rubbery, hard and chewy, and that's not the case.
There's an ethnic thing to it too, isn't there, Otis?
African
Americans are noted for their barbecue. Is it different? Are they different in the way they look at it?
Well, I really believe. Well, now, and this is what I'm going to say, and this was what I went through. I tried to cook my ribs in the smoker. And actually, my customers didn't care for them too much. They didn't like it because it's a different flavor. So I had to really go back to the grill, and as you say, we do pork steaks there, and also we do the snoot. Now this might go back to slavery days, when the slaves really did most of the barbecuing, and it's just transcend down, so. It's something that we've learned and learned how to make money with it for economical values and stuff, But it's been out there a long time. In fact, we had two restaurants in our family. We had the first one in 1935 downtown. When my mother's uncle got out of World War I, he came to St. Louis from Mississippi, and he opened a barbecue place. And what he did, after he opened it, he sent for his two sisters. And one was my grandmother and my mom. So I've been around barbecue a long time. And so I've really seen one way to do it, and I've seen other ways to do it. But it kind of depends on the taste and also the quality of your food.
Yeah. How do you see that, David? Do you see a difference between the white man's barbecue and a black man's barbecue?
I've been told that white folks tend to underseason. Other than that, not really.
It's all pretty good.
It's all. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. There's different flavor profiles that we all try to achieve, and I don't think that there's enough difference to give any credence to it.
Right.
Matt, what do you think? You're the researcher.
In the little bit of research that I've done, there are barbecue traditions all over the place. Korea has a huge barbecue tradition. Many Asian countries have, and they go back, thousands of years. So yeah, it's and they all split off, and modify and mutate and do their own thing. So I think it's hard to like really, say, that it to split it down along like ethnic lines. I think, there's good and bad.
Let me come back to you, David, because our time is winding down. What advice do you have for the backyard barbecuer? You're a professional. What mistakes do they make? What should they be thinking about when we're planning a barbecue meal?
Keep it simple. I think it's number one. I think there's a lot of dads at home that want to overcomplicate things, and they'll mix a bunch of things together, or they'll, do a bunch of unnecessary work. For me, grill on your Weber, based with a little bit of sauce. You want to thin it out with some beer, drink a little too. All the power to you, and have a good time with it. If you're not having fun while you're cooking, it's just not going to taste good.
What could be making it too complicated? You say don't make it too complicated. What could complicate it?
Overcomplicating seasonings or sauces, or doing a bunch of gimmicky things that you may have read somewhere that are supposed to improve what you're doing, or using some expensive apparatus for it really, most of that stuff is just comes out in a wash. It's if you just buy really, really quality meat, all right, and do really, really simple things to it, and have a good time, it's going to come out great.
Otis, what's your advice?
Well, what I see mostly when backyard barbecuers do, they tend to use this. I actually call it napalm.
Napalm.
this lighter fluid.
Yeah.
What they do is they load it up with this lighter fluid. Now stuff got to burn, so it has to burn off. And some people let it burn, some don't, and some people disguise it with onions and different things put in there. But it doesn't do the barbecue any justice as far as the flavor if you don't get rid of it. Yeah. We use chimneys at our place, because we try to get our recipe is what we're concerned about and how the food tastes. So something to add something that's like gasoline to a fire, that just doesn't make sense to me.
You can smell it from a block away.
Right, exactly. Yeah. See, and my mom, we used to TP the coal, the old hardwood coal.
What's that mean?
Well, like in the old days, you didn't have briquettes. You had a lot of what they called hardwood coal. And so what we would do would have to put a piece of newspaper up under there and then teepee it
Oh, I see. Make the shape.
Make a shape like a teepee. And then we light the paper. Then you have to fan like hell trying to get the damn thing, the thing to burn, you know what I mean, for the coals to catch. And which was very, very tiresome. It's hot out there. It's even worse. It's very boring for a young man. So I was so glad to see the chimneys come about. And I think the chimney is probably the best thing the outdoor barbecue guy could ever had in the backyard. Now, if they learn to use it, I don't know, but because sometimes we tend to stick to old things that mom and dad did, and
it worked for them. Why not work for
exactly.
you? Right?
Exactly.
We have to wind this down, but of course you can't live by meat alone at the barbecue. You got to have sides to eat with it.
Of course.
I'll ask each of you, what is your recommendation? What's the best thing to have with a nice piece of meat or chicken or fish?
Well, if we're Beast would tell you that it's Brussels sprouts with pork belly.
Oh,
they're pretty good.
That's our top selling side in the restaurant. But for me, personally, I like really traditional things. I like a great potato salad, a good bean. Call it a day. I don't need more than that.
a little slaw.
Maybe. It's done right.
Yeah.
How about you, Otis?
Well, we're traditionally, all our sides are vegetarian because we have people come in, they just want the sides. They don't want any meat. So we have to make sure we don't have any meat on them.
Wait a minute. Let me have that again. Your customers come in and they're vegetarians?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But like I said, they might not want meat, but like I say, our sides are vegetarian sides. Don't have any meat in them. Mm-hmm. So what we traditionally, St. Louis barbecue back in the day was really potato salad. Uh-huh. Now we use my mom's recipe, but my wife took a lot of things out of there to stop foodborne illness and stuff like that, like the egg and egg like that, which can go bad. Or either some onions, if they stay too long, they can go bad. So what she did, she changed the recipe of it, but she maintained the flavor. And also, it's like David was saying, the baked beans is one of our top sellers also. Now, the slaw that we have, we don't usually make the slaw, but we buy it. But I couldn't really find anybody to make a good slaw, so we had to buy that.
Mm-hmm. Is there really anything better than a great pit bean right off the grill, right off the smoker, or something like that?
That's my favorite side, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I like to grill corn on the cob, too. That's not bad.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm. Final thought from you, Matt, as we wrap this up?
Well, just like I always say, I mean, there are so many great places out in St. Louis. You need to go explore. There are some, obviously a lot of great barbecue places that get a lot of press, and rightly so. They're really great, but there's a lot of other smaller places, and they're all over the city. And just explore and see what's out there, and just don't take our word for it. Go out there and find out for yourself.
And Otis, we've got a couple of months for it. You're year round at your place?
We're year round. We cook all year long. All year long.
Same for you, David?
Oh yeah, every day.
Yeah,
every day.
Well, it sounds delicious. My stomach is growling just sitting here talking to you. Thank you so much for being with us, and keep up the good work. Keep feeding us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks to Matt Sorrell of Sauce Magazine, Otis Walker of Smoki O's Barbecue, and David Sandusky of Craft BBQ Company. Archive versions of past St. Louis On the Air programs are available for download or podcast at stlpublicradio.org/stlonair. St. Louis On the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU. Thank you for listening. I'm Don Marsh.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.